Guys, so today is day 9 of Glory Be. I'm going to be reading to you chapter 16 and maybe 17 depending on the time. While we are reading, I want you keeping track of things that Glory says and does that shows character traits. Remember, we've said before how our main character in the story is going to change over time in realistic fiction. And it's the same as in historical fiction, where over time, Glory is going to change. She starts out as only caring about her and her birthday and the 4th of July and her pool closing, and she's very selfish. She's thinking about her world changing, which a lot of little kids or younger kids like Glory's age 11 still think about just themselves and the world revolving around them. But as the story goes on and Glory starts seeing how things like the community and the pool changing affects other people also, she's going to start growing and changing her character. So today as we're reading, I want you keeping track of Glory and some words that would describe her and how her character is changing. So I'm going to start on chapter 16, which is page 99, Almost Dark. Remember when we left off, Robbie and Jessalyn had gone to Tupelo to see Elvis's house where he grew up. And Glory went with them, and she snuck in with them. And she had overheard how Robbie had moved to Hanging Moss, Mississippi, because he got in trouble at his old town. He was hanging out with his friend Henry, who was Black, at a restaurant. And the restaurant owner told Henry, the friend, he had to leave because he was Black. And so Robbie stuck up for him and refused to leave and said, no, he shouldn't have to leave because he's Black. He should be able to stay just like how I can stay because I'm white. And he got in a lot of trouble in that town, which is how he ended up in Hanging Moss with his aunt. And it was a big secret. He didn't want people to know about it because he didn't want people to think he was a troublemaker or anything. So today as we're reading, thinking about what Glory's going to do with that secret. Alrighty, so I'm on page 99. That evening, by the time Robbie's headlights hit Welcome to Hanging Moss, Mississippi, population 8,003, sign out on the highway, the sun was sinking behind the trees and the sky a million colors of orange. We were almost home. I leaned against Robbie's back seat thinking about the day and what Emma would say if she found out Jessalyn and I were joyriding with Robbie, the North Carolina jailbird. Jessalyn hollered so loud it woke me out of my daydreaming. She leaned over to shake my knee. Glory, is somebody following us? I turned around. Oh no, the car's got a big red light on top. Uh-oh, Robbie said before he pulled in next to a small store advertising corn, tomatoes, and green beans. It's a policeman. I was taking in a big gulp of air. Let me move it up so you can see the pages. I could hardly talk. He's getting out of his car. Jessalyn was whispering. He's writing down the license plate number. Wonder if he's been following us all along. Robbie looked in the rearview mirror. When the policeman tapped on our window, Jessalyn and I nearly jumped out of our skin. I need your driver's license, son, he said to Robbie. Get out of the car and turn around. Yes, sir. Robbie stepped outside. I scooched to the edge of my seat and leaned my head towards Jessalyn. Robbie reached into his back pocket to hand over his wallet. You're from North Carolina? The police looked hard at Robbie's license. What brings you down here? Well, Robbie explained about how he was here staying with his aunt for the summer, wanting to play football come September. My heart was pounding so hard I could hardly hear. I wanted to be home where I belonged. The policeman said, There's people from out of state driving down here stirring up trouble. You wouldn't be one of them, would you? No, sir, Robbie said politely. Get back in your car and drive straight on home. It's not safe to be out after dark tonight. Just when I didn't think this evening could get any worse, the policeman's hand brushed across his gun as he shined his flashlight in my eyes and then Jessalyn's. You girls visiting from North Carolina too? He asked. Yes, sir, Jessalyn answered. And I was almost glad to hear her lie, because lying to a policeman wasn't nearly as bad as what Emma and our daddy would have done if he'd dragged us home in his big car with that bright light shining for the whole world to see. Then the policeman looked hard at me and Jessalyn. You sure you're not from around here? No, sir, Jessalyn's voice squeaked out. You look kind of familiar. The policeman shined his flashlight around the back seat again. Jessalyn didn't answer the policeman, neither did I. Pretty soon he nodded at Robbie. Son, you get these girls home. It's too late to be out here on the highway. Whoever their daddy is, he'll be worrying. That was a really short chapter. Now it's already chapter 17. Cross my heart. When Robbie's car started up again, I was shaking. My fingernails dug into the back seat. You think that policeman's going to get us in trouble somehow? I finally asked. Daddy will skin us alive if he finds out that you're not shopping with Mary Louise and that we got stopped by the police. I dug my fingernails even deeper. Once Daddy's done with us, it'll be Emma's turn to skin our hides. We didn't do anything wrong, Robbie answered. If you don't count Jesslyn lying to a policeman, I'd said. We were back in town now. Robbie stopped the car in front of our house. Not here. Y'all let me out by the library, I told him. I'll walk home. The last thing I needed was for Emma to see me getting out of Robbie's car. You know, Glory, Jesslyn said, without even turning around to look at me. You shouldn't go sneaking into people's business. Don't tell anything about today, anything you saw, or anything you heard. I didn't hear anything. I was going to try real hard to keep Robbie secret. Not like the time I blabbed to Emma that Jesslyn had broken our mama's China cat statue when I promised I wouldn't tell. Or when I let it slip to Frankie that Emma had sewed lace into Jesslyn's underpants for Pep Squad tryouts. Nope, not like that. This time, I was keeping a real secret. As long as I lived, I'd never tell this story. If I lived long enough to stand a shakedown by Emma or Daddy. Robbie let me out around the corner from the library. Glory, I'll be back at the house soon after you get there, Jesslyn said. When I got home, Emma was waiting on the front porch. You been at the library this whole time? Yes'm. Get in here, Glory. Where's Jesslyn? She promised she'd be back before dark. Well, it's not quite dark yet. I don't know where she is. I kept my eyes on the grass. Brother Joe's got a meeting at the church. He's due back any time now. When he finds out Jesslyn's not here, Emma's voice stopped. I never liked the idea of that child going off to Memphis shopping. When do you reckon your sister's getting home? Don't know. Don't care. I caught myself before another word popped out of my mouth. Jesslyn might get in trouble, but I wouldn't be the one telling on her. I walked into the kitchen like it was any other night of the summer. I sat at the table, eating a stick of Emma's warm cornbread. I turned the pages of Jesslyn's magazine and looked at the movie star Sandra Dee, with not one single, solitary blonde hair where it didn't belong. I focused my mind on how she'd have to sleep on brush rollers all night long to get that flipped-up hairdo. When Emma walked in, she sat down a plate of fudge big enough to feed half of Hangin' Moss. I closed the magazine. Can I have a piece? She handed me a tiny bite and covered it up. I'm taking this home to my company, she said. Who's your company? Must be a heap of people to eat all that candy. Just visitors, she said. Emma didn't ever have visitors. I'd been to her house on the other side of town. There wasn't room for anybody but Emma. I looked at the big plate wrapped in tinfoil. Who are they? Well, I've got 4 or 5 folks sleeping on my sofa and in my back room. Who? I asked again. Emma sat at the kitchen table like she was plumb worn out. She pulled her chair close to me. Young folks from up north, like your friend, Laura's mother. Your daddy knows, she said. Some white people have fired maids for keeping civil rights workers, freedom workers at their houses. But Brother Joe don't mind. Laura's mother's a freedom worker. At least that's what Frankie called her. He said it's like freedom something bad. He says it like freedom is something bad. I picked at the scab on my arm. I couldn't look at Emma. Wonder if they'll try to get the pool opened up. Frankie says it's closed because of all the Yankees like Laura in town. Civil rights people here got a heap of things need doing besides that pool. Important things, like helping us figure out how to vote. Teaching children to read, Emma said. It's good you and Laura are friends. I suspect she's lonely sitting at that library, with her mama gone over to the new clinic. Frankie's mad about me being friends with Laura. His daddy says for him to not play with me. I looked right at Emma and took a deep breath. And now the pool's closed, I said. And you've got Yankees visiting. Lots of stuff is happening here, Emma. Emma took my hand and held it up next to hers. Praying hands, I whispered. Praying hands. We got a lot to pray over, baby. She pushed herself up from the table, finished wrapping up the fudge to take home. I went to the porch to think. Fireflies blinked on and off in the front yard, and the crickets chirped so loud that it was hard to get my thoughts straight. Maybe I could just write another letter to that newspaper. Say how mean it was for a policeman to accuse any old boy out just riding on the highway of causing trouble. My daddy wouldn't need to know who wrote it. None of his church people could ever find out. A whole lot of those letters didn't have names signed to them. I could be anonymous, like they were. So I'm going to stop here for a second. So we have learned a couple things about Glory. So Glory, Hemphill, traits. Remember, character traits are something that don't change easily. This is something that defines who a person is, and they can change, but it takes time and it takes big events. So Glory, we can say, was selfish at the beginning. And we know she was selfish because she only cared about her pool and her birthday. We also know that Glory believes in freedom, and she believes in treating people right. Like when she tells Frankie at the beginning of the book, why would you not want to be in class with someone who's black? You sit in class with that mean bully and that's fine, but a nice black person would be worse than a mean bully who was white. And so we know that Glory believes in freedom and equality because she respects Emma, who is black, and she's friends with Laura, whose mother is a freedom worker. And we can see that again when she tells Emma, he says it like it's something bad. And we can see that she respects Emma because when Emma takes her hands, she doesn't think about how they're different. She thinks about how they're the same. Like before at the beginning when she held their hands together and she said, our hands are almost the same. They're almost the same size. And Emma says, our hands are a lot more different than they are alike. But to Glory, her and Emma are so similar because Emma's helped raise her. And there's that respect there. She doesn't want Emma being mad at her. She doesn't think of Emma as somebody different because she's black. She just thinks of her as someone who's close to her and someone she looks up to. And that's a way to show that she believes in equality, because if she didn't believe in equality and she thought that black people weren't the same as white people or weren't as good or whatever it was back then she wouldn't respect Emma in that same way. And so that shows a lot about Glory's character. We also know that she values friendship and trust because she vows to keep Robbie's secret. She says forever. She says it's not going to be like secret. I feel like I spelled that wrong. Okay. She vows to keep Robbie's secret forever. She's like, it's not going to be like that one time where I told Aunt Jessalyn on accident or that other time that I accidentally told Frankie this. This is a real secret. She knows how important it is. She knows how much Robbie and Jessalyn are trusting her with this secret that she overheard. So she knows that it's really valuable to hold that trust and that friendship with Jessalyn and Robbie. So I'm going to keep reading here at the bottom of page 106. When I peered down the sidewalk, Emma was waiting for her friend, Mr. Miles, Liberty taxicab, that picked her up on some nights. I looked again, and finally, here came Jess Lynn holding her sandals in one hand, fanning herself with a magazine in the other. Jess Lynn's home! I started down to meet her. Did you have fun in Memphis with Mary Louise? I yelled. Emma mumbled something about Jess Lynn not having the brains the good Lord gave a flea. And then she juggled with a tinfoil wrapped fudge in her dry pocketbook and eased herself into the back seat of the taxi. Lucky for Jess Lynn, they drove off before Emma had a chance to ask anything about the so-called trip to Memphis. And pretty soon our daddy crossed the street and stood in front of the porch. When we followed him inside, he carefully lined up his sermon and Bible on the front hall table. You and Mary Louise get what you needed? He asked. Fire baton and all? We had fun, but I didn't buy anything except some new magazines. She held up her movie magazine, which I knew she'd had all summer. I'm tired, Daddy. I think I'll go upstairs to bed. Jess Lynn gave me a keep your mouth shut kind of look, and so I did. She walked into the kitchen, poured some iced tea, and took her glass upstairs. She pulled the hall phone into the bathroom and then shut the door tight, with the extra long cord squished underneath the door. I sat on my bed real quiet so that I could hear her. Jess Lynn was whispering. We took a drive to Elvis's house in Tupelo, and we got stopped by the police on the way home. It had to be Mary Louise on the phone. I lay down on my bed and opened the witch tree symbol. When Jess Lynn stopped talking, I marked my place with a book. With a bookmark made out of magnolia leaf I'd pressed in Bible school.
Mom.
Hi, baby. Jess Lynn waltzed into our room wearing pink pajamas and a goony, dreamy look. Want to play cards? She asked. I couldn't believe it. Sure. Junk poker? I grabbed for my box. Not that silly game, Jess Lynn said. Besides, Daddy doesn't like us betting on cards. I didn't mention how he wouldn't like a lot of the stuff she'd been up to lately. Yeah, you can draw. Here. Yeah, you too. So what's in your shoebox that you keep tied up under your bed, if it's not for joke poker? Nothing. Since I'd looked inside that box, I knew what was in there. Soon she'd added the picture of her and Robbie at Elvis's house and the scrap of green flower wallpaper. Let's play gin rummy, Jess Lynn said. I shuffled and dealt each 10 cards and then turned the next one over. I wish we'd play together more, like we did last summer. Last summer was a long time ago, Glory. Jess Lynn picked up a card. I was quiet for a minute, thinking of what to say except next. I had fun in Tupelo with you and Robbie, except for that last part. That was kind of scary. Remember, you can't tell Daddy, Jess Lynn said. You can't tell where we went. You can't tell about the policeman. And you especially cannot tell anybody anything you heard Robbie say. I didn't hear a thing. I picked up the King of Hearts and slapped it on the stack. Jess Lynn turned over her last card and shook her head. I won. Again. You're not that great at cards, you know. Well, maybe if somebody played with me more, I started to say. But Jess Lynn wasn't listening. Shh, you're fine. Cut the light off. I made the room dark and pulled back my bedspread and crawled under the covers. The air conditioner was so loud, I could barely hear Jess Lynn's voice across the room. Glory, remember, she whispered half asleep. It's a secret. In the dark, over my own pink pajamas, I crossed my heart. And then just to be sure, before falling asleep, I crossed my heart again. So, hold on. So, we can see that Glory values that friendship and Char, be nice. That she values friendship and trust, and she's still promising to keep, let me see if this will help. It got blurry all of a sudden for some reason. There we go. Maybe that'll help. Oh, that's not much better. All right. So she values that friendship and that trust. She vows to keep Robbie's secret forever. And she also values her sisterhood with Jess Lynn.
Mom.
What, Char? In a little bit. It's windy outside right now, sugar. Windy. Yeah, we'll go outside a little bit. So she values that sisterhood with Jesslyn. And so even when Jesslyn's mean to her, like she has been all summer, Glory still wants to play with her. So Glory's been talking these last couple chapters about how Jesslyn used to play with her so much and they used to be so close. And then this summer, Jesslyn's acting like she's too grown up to play with Glory anymore. And we can see that that's hurt Glory a lot and that it makes her upset. But even when Jesslyn's mean to her, she still values that sisterhood enough and that bond that she, even when she's mean to her, she still wants to spend time with her and play with her. So some traits we have from Glory. We know that she was selfish at the beginning. She believes in freedom. She values friendship and trust, and that she values her sisterhood. These are things that are really important to Glory that are going to take something really big to change. So like at the beginning, when she's really selfish, she's starting to change that by thinking about Robbie and wanting to keep his secret, even though she's lying to keep that secret and she doesn't like lying. So she's starting to change being selfish and only caring about herself and her birthday by thinking about other people like Laura and sticking up for her friend, by hanging out with Robbie and promising to keep his secret, and by hanging out with Jesslyn even when she was mean to her and didn't want to help her celebrate her birthday and all of these things. So she's starting to change from being that selfish younger girl into growing up a little bit. And next time when we read day 10, which will be chapter 18 of Glory Be, we're going to add to this list of things that show that Glory believes in freedom and she values friendship and how she's going to grow throughout this story. So I will see you next time. Make sure you have this written down. If you need to pause the video to write these, I would pause it right now. Write all these down because you're going to want that for your Google form to go with this assignment. I will see you soon.